Hello everybody, I'm back with another card reveal video for you today. I'm going to be looking at the cards that Berger and Slammer talked about on the open stream at the weekend. There were some cards revealed today and yesterday. I'll be talking about those as well tomorrow, so don't you worry. But for now, I'm going to cover these. I also missed Svalblood Butcher, but I don't think there's too much to say about that card. If you don't know, it's a Skellige 4 provision 4 strength unit. Damage a friendly unit by 2 and give an enemy bleeding. Seems like a cool card to enable Bloodthirst and, the Skellige archetype of Berserk, which is being added to the game with Crimson Curse. Didn't really have many thoughts to share, and I forgot that from last time. But anyway, let's jump into this one. We have Regis Bloodless as the first card. It is a neutral 9 provision 4 strength card with a deploy of damage an enemy unit by 2 with 2 reach, by 4, sorry, with 2 reach, and a death blow that banishes the unit that you destroy with this damage. So, a little bit of a power creep on kind of some of the neutrals we already have, namely Ifrit, Enraged Ifrit, or whatever. Is it called Enraged Ifrit? Yeah, I think it is. Whatever it's called. The Ifrit, the 9 provision 8 strength card, doing a similar effect to this, doesn't banish the unit when you kill it. Now, it is worth keeping in mind that Regis has 2 reach, which, that's a little bit of a downside. Maybe you're forced to play him into an already stacked melee row or something. But a little bit of power creep, it seems like. I don't know, it would have been maybe cool if Regis was, maybe in this form a monster card, Bloodlust, when he's taken over by his primal instincts or whatever. But whatever, okay, a little bit of power creep, sure. It's another option if you want to, throw in a ton of damage into your deck. You could play that Chironex, Ifrit, and Regis if you so chose to. It does seem to counter things like Asaya Roach pretty well. Ceres in Skellige can get really wrecked by this card. Maybe a couple of other things, like if you damage their Griffin or Spear Tip down and when you're against monsters to deny them eating their big guys. Could be an option. But I don't know, seems like it would be maybe a good card. Ifrit is already played in some decks. If, the new expansion doesn't bring enough sort of diversity in the cards you can run, then maybe you'll just consider throwing these regular sort of 9 provision damaging effects. I don't imagine this card will be bad. Seems pretty good and seems to just kind of counter a few things as a, an extra thing that it does, where something like Ifrit doesn't. Okay, next card, what do we got? We've got Portal. This card seems pretty exciting. It's a neutral 13 provision card. Anyone can play it, and the deploy is summon 2 random units with 4 provision costs from your deck on both sides of this unit. So, seems pretty cool. Another thinning option for neutral, which will maybe, make the witches less prevalent. That's potentially a thing. Or maybe it'll make them, won't have an impact on that. You maybe just run more thinning with this card. But okay, got a bit of a deck building, thing associated with it. You're going to have to maybe put in, 4 provision cards that don't have a deploy effect, because this is a summon, and summon discounts deploy effects. Or maybe you want to put in 4 provision cards which have a negative deploy effect. I can't really think of any that do at the moment, but maybe there will be some in the expansion or that I've forgotten here. So, pretty cool effect. Maybe you want to play like engines with this, things like Nausicaa Sergeant, for example, or Elven Swordmaster. These sort of 4 provision engines could be very powerful if you pull out 2 at the same time. It's going to be really hard for your opponent to deal with both of them in one turn, and you can maybe get the value from those engines that can be very good. Things like Lyrian not Arbalist, what's the one? The Cavalry. Lyrian Cavalry is another one in Northern Realms. If you're playing an Order deck, maybe you can just get a lot of engines on the board and really overwhelm your opponent with this. Does have that deck building requirement kind of, if you just throw in, damaging stuff like wolf packs, for example. If you pull out a wolf pack with this, it's only going to be 2 points, which is really terrible. So definitely incentivizing some, interesting combinations of bronzes, potentially. If you're assuming that, the bronzes you pull for 4 provisions are like about 5 points, right? Maybe 4, 5. Ideally, they'd be about 5 points, right, for 4 provision bronzes. Doesn't always happen, but in that case, you get 10 points for 13, which is kind of really good, considering you're thinning 2 cards from your deck. So, from the offset, this looks very powerful potentially, but it does have a pretty, hefty deck building cost associated with it. It pretty much means you don't want to run cards that are going to deal damage in the 4 provision slot. I think is what it means, which is interesting because there are a lot of damaging 4-drops that have been revealed already with things like Deathblow attached to them as well. So we'll see if those cards are worth running, or if you want to take them out maybe in favour of Portal. You could also maybe just try to get those cards into your hand, before you play the Portal, but it is a thinning card. You maybe want to play it earlier in the game rather than later. Very interesting card. It is an artifact, so it does, you know, get countered by Vivienne Oriole. I guess you can call it countered. If everyone's playing Portal, then Vivienne will be a 14 point when it hits this. But you still got to draw Vivienne at the right time and all that. So hard to say how common this will be. It does look pretty good, and definitely thinning at a good, a good cost, which this is. It's maybe like 5 to 3 points for 2 thinning, which is actually insanely, good for the amount of thinning you get. Hard to say if it will be in every deck because of that deck building cost, but I think it will definitely see some play, maybe even a lot of play. It seems like a very cool and powerful artifact that we've got here. Okay, up next we have Proto Fleeta. This is a monster card, 10 provisions, 4 strength, and the deploy effect of damage an enemy unit by 3 with dominance of draining an enemy unit by 3 instead. So effectively it's a 7 for 10, and a 10 for 10 if you have the highest unit on the board already. I'm not sure when the dominance will occur. I guess it's before the deploy effect probably, right? So even if you damage a 7 down to 4 with this, and you have nothing else on the board, that's not going to trigger the dominance. So kind of a pretty powerful tempo play potentially. I mean, 10 for 10 is like a very powerful amount of points, right? Things like Goliath, were very good when they didn't have much of a downside. Now that it does have a downside, it's maybe not as good, but definitely more fuel for that kind of big unit archetype that a lot of monster decks like to run anyway. At the moment with things like Gurnakora and Woodland Spirit, I imagine this card will see play. It seems very, very powerful potentially. Like just the amount of tempo you get with this and 3 removal on top is pretty damn powerful, I think. Of course that condition is there, you have to have the highest unit. Can be a bit of a trouble sometimes, but usually these decks that run cards like this already have so many tools to just get that highest unit. I don't think that would be too much of an issue. Pretty cool card. Vampire kind of theme with the draining of strength. Gonna be a very cool card, I think, and a pretty powerful one. Alright. Next up is Crimson Curse, another monster card, and it is a special 11 provision card. Destroy an allied unit, then apply a Blood Moon row effect to both allied rows and set its duration equal to the destroyed unit's power. And what Blood Moon does is every allied turn, on the turn start you boost a random vampire on the row by 2. So like old Blood Moon effectively, in fact, is it identical to old Blood Moon's effect? Not quite, because he had beasts, I believe, as well as vampires, which could get boosted by it. But okay, only vampires this time around. I'm not exactly sure how many vampires are in the game at the moment. Obviously they're adding quite a lot in with this expansion, it seems like. Will this be good? Well, 11 provisions for, in theory, what could be up to, I suppose... Okay, let's say you destroy a 10 strength unit with this, right? That'll give you, or 9 strength, okay? Because you play this, 9 would give you the max. So you play this... No, you have to play an 8 strength unit, because... You have to play a unit, then play this, and then you get the Blood Moon, right? So, okay, ideally, what's going to happen? You're going to kill an 8 strength unit and get 8 turns of Blood Moon, but that means you already have to have 2 vampires on the road to get the full value. Oh, this hurts my brain. I think, maybe at 7... Guys, I don't know if this can be good. I'm just trying to do the maths in my head, and it doesn't really... So you're paying 11 provisions. How many points do you want to get from this? Like 12, that'd be lovely. 10, 12. It's pretty damn conditional. It's very bad in a short round, and it's very bad if your vampires get removed. So you need 12 points from this. Okay, so that means you need 2 rows getting hit by this every turn for effectively 6 turns. Not 6 turns, 3 turns. Okay, so 3 turns of 2 vampires. Yeah, alright. God, analysing this card is actually really difficult. Sorry guys, I'm like actually genuinely stumped. So 3 turns of 2 vampires, and you need, a 3 strength unit. Maybe that's not actually too difficult to meet the condition. So then you manage to break even, but you don't because you're killing a 3 strength unit, so you need an extra turn worth of vampire procs, so you need to kill a 4 strength unit, I think. Okay, so you have 2 vampires on the row, you destroy a 4 strength unit, and then you get the value from it if you have 2 vampires on the row. 4 turns. Now, it might be easier to do that if you have more time and more, It's weird because if you... God, I just don't know how to analyze this, guys. If you're destroying a high strength unit, then you're losing a lot of points, right? But it goes on for longer. So it's kind of like a a weird thing going on there. Honestly, I don't even know if this will be good. I can't even analyze it. It's actually breaking my brain a little bit. My instinct is it probably won't be, just because you have to have vampires alive. But there are quite a lot of vampires being added. So I suppose if you're able to get this off in a pretty long round, it could be very powerful. I don't know. The other thing is you can probably override the Blood Moon with weather effects if it still works like it used to in Old Gwent, which I imagine it probably does. I don't even know if that's the case, but I'm not sure, guys. I think this will be a bit of a gimmicky card, to be honest. It just seems a bit difficult to see this getting 12 points of value. That's like really quite conditional. You need to have a creature of the right strength to destroy. You have to have a round length of the right length to have that creature being destroyed be good, and you have to have enough vampires for it to be good, and you have to not run into weather as well. Interesting. I mean, it's a pretty cool effect, right? Like, I'm sitting here going like, oh god, how do you make this work? This is going to be crazy. Maybe it could be like insane in some games if you catch your opponent by surprise. My gut instinct is it probably won't be that good because you can remove the vampires that it synergizes with. I guess that's all I've got really to say on it. Definitely going to be one of those cards you have to play around with a bit to see really how good it actually is. Either way, very cool effect, very interesting. Excited to try that one out for sure. Alright, next up we have Damien de la Tour, and this guy is 11 provisions, Nilfgaard card, 5 strength, and order of refresh your leader's abilities. So kind of like old Kahir in the way that you can effectively replay your leader if this goes off. Old Kahir was a deploy effect, so that resurrected your leader basically. Although old Kahir, I think, yeah, I don't know how old Kahir works. I can't even remember that far back. Either way, this is a pretty cool card. 5 strength rather for 11. That's not too bad. As far as engines go, things like Okvist, 5 for 9, yeah, that's fair, sounds fair enough. Things like Synthesis, right, 5 for 11. This is a Nilfgaard card, so, you expect it to be maybe better than those, and, Synthesis, as a comparison, 5/11, you get 5 points, kind of, maybe a bit more if your deck synergizes with it. Damien, how much can you get if it goes off? Probably about 8, maybe 10. 8 to 10, I imagine, is the average if you're playing something like Ardal, right? If you're playing maybe a combo deck with Calvit, right? So this will probably like minimum get you about 13 points if you're running in a deck that makes sense. If you're running with like Morvran, then only maybe 11. Although maybe you go for like a reveal synergy deck and it's a bit better. But basically, yeah, it seems quite good. Probably with Ardal, I think that'll be the main, the main guy that wants to play this card. It was previously, I think, 4/13, which I think would have been a bit too difficult to play, a bit too vulnerable to removal, but 5/11 seems pretty fair. Not a lot of removal hits 5s. If it gets locked, it's kind of bad, but maybe you play it with other engine type stuff, maybe with Ardal as well. You take engines from the opponent, and you kind of maybe engine stack them out, kind of, maybe kill theirs with, tactics and whatnot. Maybe play the Tawny Joust to give your guys shield as well. Yeah, either way, pretty cool ability. I don't think this will be broken. Even when it goes off, it's not necessarily like game-winning in the way that Okvist can be in like a super long round. It's probably very good when it happens to go off, but also pretty dependent on your leader that you're running. Doesn't work with some of the leaders like Usurper and Morvran as well as with others, so I don't see this card ever being like old Kahir in that it was very oppressive and in every deck, kind of, for Nilfgaard. I imagine, it'll be a little bit weaker, but still a pretty cool card that you can play in your Nilfgaard deck if you're playing Ardal, probably. Alright, cool to see that. We've got Duchesses Informant next, and this is a 5 provision Nilfgaard card. 1 strength, but it is spying, so you give it to your opponent on their side of the board, and the deploy is spawn and play a base copy of an enemy non-spying unit. So effectively, you pay a price of 1 point and 5 provisions, and you're getting an enemy, an enemy bronze. How good is this? Well, it does have the spy synergy. We haven't seen any more spy engines come up, so still it's only enforcers really that work with spies at the moment, and I don't think that's enough, support for the spy archetype at the moment. If there's more engines that come for spies, then definitely the spy archetype could come back, I imagine. But when you only have like 2, maybe 3 or 4 with like Operator Ardal, and then you're getting into kind of meme territory if you do that. I don't know that spies can be just good on the nature of them being spies alone. Now, will this card be played? Well, you know, regardless of its spying tag, it's possible, right? You effectively want to be getting like about 6 points from the thing you take most of the time, right? You're effectively paying a 6 provision cost because it's -1 point. So yeah, you need at least like 6 points. I imagine that's not going to be too good, although it does proc Assimilate, so that is a very interesting interaction worth noting. If you're playing the Assimilate engines, you can get, you know, an extra point from playing this. You can control, of course, what you're copying, but it does require your opponent to have a unit, you know, that can get the value. It will be like really maybe quite good with things like slave infantry. If the opponent's got that, you can you know, copy that and get maybe 7-8 points from it. Basically, decks that play like very high value bronzes, you can take a base copy of that, and I imagine that'd be quite good. Yeah, it depends how many decks are running stuff like that that's actually viable. You can maybe take some good things from some decks in the meta. We'll have to kind of see how that pans out. This card might see play. It actually could be quite strong. It's a pretty conditional one, but has potential, I think. Has potential. Alright, next we have Knighthood. This is a 7 provision Northern Realms special card. Split 6 boost randomly between all units on an allied row. Pretty straightforward. Kind of obvious that it's going to synergize with the boosting archetype, right? With Scytheman and, you know, the infantry and Tridem infantry, of course. Tridem with this is going to be pretty damn powerful if you get it off. You're going to get 12 points from this card effectively, which is pretty damn insane for 7 provisions. Obviously, you're going to play a little bit into tool removal, but I mean, that combo alone seems pretty damn good with Meve as well. Maybe you just throw Tridems in a deck, you split those boosts, you go bam, 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 hit everything on the board. It's a little bit conditional. I mean, at the end of the day, if your Tridem dies, you can always play it for 6, you know, later in a round. So I imagine this might be quite good, honestly. It definitely has potential to be busted with Tridem, to just, you know, you play, and it's on an allied row, right? So you can play lots of units in the round, leave one row with only one unit on, and then boost the Tridem or whatever many times, guaranteed. So I don't think the random effect matters here at all. And yeah, it has some pretty insane synergy in Northern Realms, I think. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if we saw this being played. I'm already imagining. I mean, Tridem plus this, right? It's 9 points. I mean, it's not 9 points. Well, it is if they don't have units, I suppose. But it's more like 15 for 11. Plus, you have an engine on the board that can then be boosted further, which just seems absolutely insane. For, you know, it's a 4 provision card and a 7, so it's not really even much of a commitment to throw it in a deck. I might be wrong about that being very strong, but it seems on paper like could be very good if there's not too much tool removal that can punish or whatever. Cool, good stuff. Nice to see more support for the boosting sort of archetype for Northern Realms. Alright, next up we have I can't even pronounce this. Kudak. That's the one. And it is 6 provisions, Northern Realm card, 4 strength, and deploy of purify adjacent units. So there's a bit of purification coming in for Northern Realms. We've seen a few cards, have we? I don't know. We've got Sialak and Nilfgaard already who purifies. I'm not even sure how many. I mean, there's a few things like Dryas Caress, which purify your own guys. If there's not that much purification going on, then of course all the statuses are going to be looking better, but this would definitely suggest that, okay, Northern Realms at the very least will have an answer to bleeding. We'll have an answer, yeah, to those negative statuses that your opponent can apply. And things like locks will also get countered by this. So seems pretty playable probably, if the bleeding is prevalent, if locks are prevalent. I think you would probably throw this in a Northern Realms deck with engines in it most of the time, right? If your opponent's planning on locking anything, you just Okvist, round 3, bam. Lock this, my friend. They lock it, and then you purify, Okvist goes off. I can see that being kind of insane and maybe even a bit oppressive. If I'm right in that Purify gets rid of lock, I'm like 9. I mean, it does at the moment, so I couldn't see why they would. I mean, they maybe change that for the expansion, but at the moment, Purify gets rid of lock. I think it will do when the expansion drops. So I imagine it will be a very powerful mechanic to be able to use when you're running engines. We might see that Purify just knocks lock out of the meta. You know, things like Nilfgaard, which are pretty reliant on locks, might also become weaker as a result. Gonna have to wait and see how that pans out though. Cool effect nonetheless. Okay, we now have Water of Broccolon, 9 provisions, Scoia'tael card, and it is a special of spawn and summon a Dryad fledgling to an allied row, and if you control a Dryad, spawn and summon 2 of them instead. And Dryad fledglings are 3 strength little Dryads which have harmony. So effectively you get a couple of 3-point engines with this. You do need a Dryad already on the board, and it is 9 provisions. So you effectively get 6 for 9, but they're both engine points, engine value. And you can play 2 engines at the same time, which might actually be quite good, guys. It might actually be quite good, you know, just because you're basically inevitably going to get at least 1 extra point on one of those engines. They won't both be removed most of the time, you know, straight away. So you're getting at least probably 7 for 9, maybe 8, maybe 9 for 9. Will this be good? Kind of hard to say. I don't imagine it will be. You know, it's not thinning your deck in any way or anything like that. And it could brick pretty hard if you don't have a Dryad on the board. You know, you're only going to get 3 for 9. You know, engine value, yes, but that's a very expensive, you know, 3-point engine. So I don't imagine this will be played, but I could be wrong about that. If you're playing like maybe a full-on Harmony Scoia'tael deck, you run a ton of engines or whatever, and try to overwhelm your opponent on that front, then yeah, maybe I could see this working, but I'm not sure about it. We'll have to wait and see, I guess. Next up is Forv, and this is actually the last one. It is another Scoia'tael card, 9 provisions, 2 strength, and deploy, play a nature card from your deck. So, nature cards, I'm not actually sure what those are. Presumably, there are a few of them in the game already, I imagine. I mean, we could probably think, what is nature? Maybe spores? Spores is nature? I don't know. Maybe this card is nature? I don't even know what this tag will mean, to be honest, guys. We already have the organic tag, right? So I'm not sure that that will be the same as nature. Really kind of... I'm not going to take a guess on that one. I actually don't know. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see what cards have the nature tag, I guess. Maybe they'll change the organic tag to nature. I don't think that's how it's going to work. Maybe they'll add the nature tag onto some already organic cards. I think it's just a completely different tag. Maybe just to do with Dryads and Broccolon and Scoia'tael spells or whatever. I don't know, but 2 for 9, 7 costed, you know, thinning basically, kind of similar to like Kira Metz, maybe a little bit stronger, but I don't think Kira's very good. I don't know that this will be, especially if there aren't many nature cards that you can pull from, so I wouldn't, you know, depending on what a nature card consists of, then, unless I'm missing something obvious, I don't know if this will be good, and I don't even know what this does or will do, so gonna have to wait on that one, but cool art nonetheless, gotta love those Dryads. Alright, that's all the cards from the Gwent Open streams that I've talked about then. Hope you've enjoyed, and let me know what you think of the new cards as well. I'll be doing, of course, the ones that I've missed from today and yesterday. I'll do those tomorrow, hopefully, if I'm able to. So, thanks a lot for watching, guys. Do subscribe for more videos, and I'll see you in the next one.